You know, some of the most powerful stories come in the smallest packages, and that's absolutely the case with the Old Testament book of Haggai. It is short, for sure, but it packs a serious punch. It's a story all about a stalled construction project, a prophet who shows up with a fiery message, and a divine promise that literally changes a nation's destiny.
So let's just get right to it. The whole book really pivots on this one central question. How could a single, half-finished building cause a full-blown national crisis? I mean, it sounds a little dramatic, doesn't it? But to really get why this was such a massive deal, we have to kind of step back in time and see the world through their eyes. Okay, so picture this. The people of Israel are finally back home in Jerusalem after this long, painful exile in Babylon. You would think this would be a time for huge celebration. And they do start rebuilding, but the single most important project, the very heart of their community, the temple, has just ground to a halt. It's just sitting there, unfinished, a ghost town of a construction site.
And here's where we get to the core of the problem. It's not like the people were being lazy. Oh no, they were incredibly busy. But what were they busy with? Well, take a look. They were pouring all their energy into building their own beautiful paneled houses, making sure they were comfortable. All the while, the house of God, the symbolic center of their entire nation, was left as literally a pile of ruins. Their priorities were completely 100% upside down.
So right when it seems like everyone's just kind of accepted this as the new normal, someone shows up, a new voice arrives, and he is ready to shake things up.
And that voice belonged to a man named Haggai. He's a prophet, and his mission is incredibly direct. He's sent by God to march right in and confront the people about what they're doing, or rather, what they're not doing. He's there to essentially ask, what are you all thinking?
His entire message really boils down to this one powerful command: consider your ways. Now, this isn't some long, angry sermon. It's a short, sharp wake-up call. He's basically telling them to just stop, take a breath, and look at their lives. He wants them to connect the dots between their actions and the consequences they're all experiencing.
But Haggai doesn't just point out what's wrong and then leave. Nope. He offers a really clear solution. It's simple, though definitely not easy. Get back to work. Finish what you started. It was time to finally rebuild God's house.
So you might be asking, why all the fuss over one building? Well, because the temple wasn't just a pile of stones and wood. It was the #1 symbol of God's presence with his people. It was the one place where they believe heaven and earth truly met. So if the temple's in ruins, that connection is broken. And that is a very big deal.
Haggai then lays out this really clear path forward. It's almost like a spiritual formula. First, you prioritize the temple. Then, that act of obedience makes it possible to experience God's presence again. And from that renewed connection, God's blessing will naturally start to flow. See? The whole thing hinged on getting their priorities in the right order.
Now, Haggai's message isn't just a warning. It's also filled with this absolutely breathtaking promise. God offers them a vision that isn't just about restoring the past, but about building an even more glorious future.
And this is the promise that changes everything. You see, some of the older people, they remembered Solomon's original temple, and they were just discouraged, thinking this new one could never, ever compare. But then God assures them through Haggai that the glory of this second house, it will be even greater than the first. What a massive injection of hope.
The message also gets personal. It singles out a key leader, a man named Zerubbabel, who was the governor of Judah. Haggai identifies him as God's chosen man for the project. And this was a crucial endorsement, right? It signaled to everybody that God was still working through their leaders to get his plans done.
So after all that, what are the big ideas we're supposed to walk away with from this short but really potent book? Let's just distill it all down to its core themes.
It really boils down to 3 central ideas. First, the absolute importance of obedience. When the people finally put God's house first, things started turning around. Second, the undeniable consequences of disobedience. I mean, while they were focused on their own fancy houses, their harvests were failing. And finally, the overarching sovereignty of God. Even with all the people's failures, God was still in control, still working through a prophet and a governor to accomplish his ultimate purpose.
And that leaves us with one last thought. At its heart, the story of Haggai is a story about priorities. The people were so busy with their own paneled houses that they completely neglected the one thing that gave their lives meaning and purpose. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's the temple in our own lives, that essential, important thing that we might be neglecting while we're so busy focusing on everything else?